I have prior referenced the paleo diet as having been kind of like a gateway drug for me to become a functional dietitian from being a conventionally trained dietitian. And if the paleo diet is the gateway drug to functional dietetics, then Paleo Valley is the gateway pathway into functional nutrition supplementation. Before I even was a functional dietitian, I saw every functional practitioner who are just the most evidence-based practitioners using this company, Paleo Valley, specifically in recommendation of their various and vast supplements. Paleo Valley is joyously a sponsor for this episode. I use both their beef sticks and their grass-fed organ complex with clients often. And the reason is that even if we are consuming meat or we aren't, we often miss out on vital minerals that we would be getting actually from animal organs. So really easy to tolerate, really incredible supplement I've been using and recommending for many, many years, as well as just from a taste perspective, I've always recommended and loved their beef sticks. And they have a variety of different flavors and a variety of different animals in their meat sticks as well. Pork, venison, beef, many different varieties. I love Paleo Valley. It's been really exciting to have them as a sponsor because this is a company that I have been recommending for 10 years and products that have seemingly only gotten better with just the absolute highest quality and with real recognition of what the human body deserves and what the human body needs. Again, most of our nutrient needs are not quite met, especially when it comes to the nutrients required for liver detoxification that we're going to talk about in this episode. I am so excited to have Illy on today. And if you are like me or anything like me, you will be ecstatic to learn from Illy today. So I'm so excited to have you here, my friend, my colleague. Welcome, Healthfully.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so happy that we've connected because it's been a pleasure, to say the least. You're a freaking spitfire.
It really has been a pleasure. And this is something that people, I think, need to know about us, is that we learned not only that we're, of course, both New Yorkers, but that for some period of time, we may have lived like a mile away from each other. And that Illy lived in Queens, which, as if you're a listener of this podcast, you'll hear me mention Queens a lot. So it means, and Northeast Queens, where I'm from, which is very exciting. So for that reason, we have that hometown love. And also, personality-wise, fit right in, as you can see, and you will tell in just a moment. Illy, tell us about just like your personal health journey, because it's really important for the amazing business that you built for us to learn that about you. And I really want to hear it from you. So talk to us.
Yeah, totally. So obviously I was definitely not raised in a crunchy household by any means. Immigrant dad, did not believe that anything could potentially be harmful. So I really was raised with two parents who were just fed is best, and they came to my dad came to America, really just trying to make ends meet. And my parents both worked. So I lived off of a lot of Lunchables and Dunkaroos and dinosaur chicken nuggets. So that was really the bulk of my childhood. But I was always in sports. So I was always seen as healthy because I was always thin and athletic. So I never had issues with food per se. Then once I hit pretty much college, I decided I can't do sports anymore. I can't keep up with college. And, I'm doing track, I'm doing soccer, I'm doing all the things. So that's when I got into the gym, and the gym was my new outlet. And with the gym comes the gym junkie mindset where you're I need the protein, I need the pre-workout, I need the creatine, I need the whatever the hell else that we were doing back then. And it was its own little kind of cult almost, because it's now I have to take all these supplements to look this way. And I really dove in head first when it came to that. And I became a personal trainer. I really started taking this seriously. And then that was my career pretty much for the next 5 years. Whether it was full-time or part-time, I was a personal trainer. And within 2 years, I really started to struggle with my overall health. I've never really had, I always had preteen acne, but nothing that was this bad. This became cystic and just really intense. And I had really chronic bloating. I started struggling with migraines. I had horrible PMS that would leave me I'd have to call out of work pretty much. And all my symptoms just became overwhelming. And I'm I don't understand. I eat well, I'm counting my calories and I'm focused on my macros and So I kind of started to get a little more lenient, and I went into like this more food freedom mindset. So I'm like, all right, maybe I'm just too strict. Maybe I'm doing things too intense. And still kind of same thing. And I go to my gynecologist for my periods. She's like, oh, we'll put you on birth control. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong, you know? So after kind of just being dismissed by my endocrinologist, my gynecologist, I went to a neurologist for my migraines. Like, I really went to everybody, my dermatologist for my acne and my eczema, everything. And although I left with no real diagnosis because all my blood work was normal, they all sent me home with like prescription medication. So I was really confused why I was being prescribed something without having a diagnosis. And that was the first time where I think I just had my own aha moment. And that's really when I started to kind of look at my own biases that I was kind of raised with, because I never had someone who was telling me like, don't eat this or don't eat that. Like, I never grew up with that. So all food fit as long as it was, you know, kind of in moderation to some extent. So I never struggled with food in that regard. And I really had to start looking at my choices, because I'm like, I'm fit. Like, I fit the criteria of a healthy, visually healthy person in America. But why am I having these types of reactions and symptoms? And that's really when I started going headfirst into more holistic modalities. And I started looking at the ingredients that I'm in consuming on a day-to-day basis. And I got really, when I started my health page, it was really focused on fitness, because most of my diet was protein powders and pre-workout powders and BCAAs and all these supplements that I was taking. And I just had a real wake-up call when it came to this whole market that the fitness industry has created around, where this is so healthy. Look how healthy we look how fit we are. And then we look at the ingredients that are in these marketed health products, and they're no better than, you know, that Twinkie that you have on a shelf. Like, it's pretty much the same thing. That's really how I started getting into it. And that's why I started like reviewing fitness products. And that was, the fitness industry really threw me into wellness, which is kind of crazy.
You know, it's something I've never asked you before that I was thinking about was, do you think that the spike in your skin conditions or migraine symptom, PMS symptoms, is it your belief that they escalated because you were ingesting all of these new products and it was toxic? Or do you think it was just like a long time coming and it just was going to rear its head? This is speculative because you can't know for sure.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about how you feel about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely, I mean, obviously a lot was going on. I just came out of being a teenager, you know, so that was the first thing. And I also was on birth control, and I got my period back 6 months after birth control. And I definitely struggled with that. And a couple years really went by of like feeling no real like relief. Mm-hmm. And I remember even cleaning up my diet completely and like really just only eating like the bare bones, bare minimum, like trying to get in my micro greens and those things, like really just trying to clean it up. But I still maintained this kind of mindset where like I can cheat on the weekends. I can go to a diner at 3 a.m. with my friends drunk after the club, and like it's okay because during the week I'm good, you know? So I still very much had this mindset. And I think that's what really continued my suffering. Like, although I think it was like a long time coming with like everything that I did throughout my life up until like my 20s, I do think these are things that persisted in my life. And I remember when I first started my page, it was all speculatory. Like, I didn't really know what was going on. So I was really just coming onto Instagram being like, all right, another doctor's appointment. Like, I have those videos of me coming out with my prescriptions being like, I'm going to try this and going to try that. Like, I don't really know what's going on. And the only time I really started to get relief was when I really started cleaning up my act, if you will, and like really looking at, all right, what's the quality of the food that I'm eating? What's the quality of the supplements I'm eating? So although I don't really know for sure what was causing all of those things, it could definitely be a combination of things. I do know what healed it, you know? So like, I'm like working backwards, if you will. So we don't ever really know until it's done. And then we're like, oh, that actually worked, you know?
Totally. Yeah. It's more about pattern recognition. And that's what I think people misunderstand about functional nutrition a lot is we think it's like, you take gluten out of your diet and you clean up your diet, and then these things magically go away, or they magically came because of these processed foods. And it's really, like you said, a combination of a lot of different factors. I kind of was asking a leading question because I knew you were going to answer it in a specific way because I know how smart you are. So I was like, yes, that's basically what I needed people to hear, is that you, as a person who focuses on giving like the cleanest, most beautiful products to people and recommendations on your shop, you also like really get that it's not just about cleaning up the products, it's the foundations. You have to get your foundations locked in, the real eating whole nutrition. You're one of the biggest advocates for eating real foods as opposed to taking a supplement to get your nutrients in or anything like that. You are really food first, I would say. And that is what I love, because you're a clean product recommender, tester, everything. Like you're really that like for one-stop shop for people to understand what's in their products, but you also understand the presence and importance of just like lifelong history and diet and all of these things too. So I just want to commend you for that. And I love that about you.
Yeah, thank you. I like, that was always like when I started Live Healthfully, it was really one of those things where I did it because I just didn't want to be an influencer. You know, I'm like, I don't want to sit here with like 500 affiliate links. So it was really just coming from like that type of place. And then when I realized people trusted me because I really came from this innocent place of like trying to just figure out what my health problems were, and then being like, oh, like that actually worked. What the hell? And then I just started diving into like, really, like, is there like science behind this? Like, have people been looking into this, you know? And I think that's really where I started to just put those puzzle pieces together. And to think that to this day, like we really do not know much about how ultra processed foods are like affecting, like we're starting to see things, you know, every single day, but it's really hard. And you know this for sure, but like to mimic nutrition science from person to person is practically impossible. Like we're so different in so many ways. And like one supplement can completely change somebody's like whole trajectory of their life and then do absolutely nothing for the next person. So it's like, we really don't know. So that's why, like, although I love my supplements and I love all those things, like I can never go to that first as somebody's cause or like cure, because like at the end of the day, like the one thing that has been tried and true for since the beginning of time is like we've been eating real whole foods, and that's it, you know?
Totally. And like aligning ourselves with the sun and like being human and all these things that we like don't do the human stuff for sure. Yeah. There's two pieces to this conversation that I always want to have with you. One is literally about the products themselves. When we're looking at skincare, what is those first few things that you're like, I don't want to see this ingredient. This is something I want to look out for. And then what is the social landscape around all of this, right? We have not only, as we've talked about in this podcast so many times, do we have kind of the nutrition world that's divided. And this is something that Illy and I message about near constantly. The nutrition world being divided into these like very intuitive eating dietitians. And then there's the more holistic, crunchy, everything has to be natural, elimination diets, gluten-free everything kind of people and practitioners. And I believe very much that Illy and I both fit somewhere in the middle of that. And so there's this also other kind of community, which they may not be dietitians, they may not even be nutritionists, but there's this kind of clean, natural community that can be really harsh on people for using chemicals. So we want to strike that middle ground from a social context perspective too. So skin is something you talk about often. When it comes to the actual products we're using on our skin, where did you start and where have you ended up in ways of like, I would never put this on my skin at this point, but when I first started, I was like, ooh, I really don't want that. Tell me about your skin journey a little bit and what you think.
Yeah, I mean, especially with someone that struggles with acne, I used to think that an acne safe product was just like, that's just really a marketing term for me in a lot of ways, because I was using things that were like, this is acne safe. And although it wouldn't break me out, it was just masking what the actual problem is. And sometimes those specific products contain even more chemicals because they have to start targeting the acne, you know, and sometimes acne, you don't really know what it can be causing it. So sometimes they put things to target the hormonal side, the bacterial side. Like they're just kind of just trying to make this product work. And then I get questions all the time on my website, like, what are acne safe products? I'm like, well, technically, because these don't contain any toxic, potentially irritating ingredients, they're technically really all safe for acne. So that's kind of when I started realizing like, cleaner beauty in general, if you know what to look out for, is just safer for your skin overall. Like I had eczema, so everything that I was using back then had to be like eczema safe. And then I started to realize that a lot of these like eczema safe things still contain things like fragrance, which can irritate eczema. So I'm like, what is going on here? But then they kind of try to counteract that with these very harsh, almost like pharmaceutical like chemicals to help target the eczema. So it's like as soon as you stop taking it, it's going to come right back. So the biggest thing that I always look out for in any type of product really is that very ambiguous fragrance, because we know that it can contain hundreds of thousands of chemicals and we don't really know what that is. And not all fragrance is necessarily bad. Like we have amazing brands that are really coming out with these isolated fragrances that are like coming directly from the plant, and they're not mixing them with all these different other chemicals. Like they're just isolations, which are great. But the problem is with a lot of brands is they won't disclose how they're coming up with it. So it could be made in a lab or it can be coming from a plant extract, and we really just don't know. So I think that's the issue too, that we kind of see on both ends of the spectrum, where they're like, just because you don't know what it is doesn't mean it's harmful. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to guess that it's not harmful either, you know, like I'm not going to guess something safe.
It's literally guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like the science-based community really is like the opposite. They're like, well, it's safe until it's proven unsafe. And I'm like, I'm not going to just, like I was just saying, like, I'm not going to tell you, would you like to put your hand in this box, and then not tell you what's in it? You know, it's the same exact concept. And I feel like I don't like to take my health for granted, because I've been in a position where my health was like taking a toll on my relationships, my life, my career, everything. So, and some people are a little more risque when it comes to them. Like, yeah, I'll try it. And then this is when now we have like everybody freaking out over tampons, because they're like, oh my God, it's toxic. How come no one told me? And you're like, I've been trying to tell you, but you're listening to these, you know, guys in their basement.
So this is really interesting, because this concept of innocent until proven guilty when it comes to products is, I think we've taken for granted in the past, however, at least in our lifetimes, that a lot of the products that we assumed would not have health consequences, even the health, quote unquote, healthy ones, the organic ones and all of that, actually do have potential health consequences. And we've kind of been, I always think about this with cell phones too. We're kind of guinea pigs on a lot of this, because it could not have an impact, some of these, at the dosage for 10 years. When it comes to cell phones, like our generation is going to be the real guinea pigs, because we have had our phones glued in our hands since we were 9 or something. And maybe younger for you, because you're a little younger than me. They literally could have been like 5.
My parents did not let me have shit, so.
Oh, actually, you're Albanian. It's complete Eastern European household rule, not a shot.
Yeah, exactly. For you. Like,
exactly. You're like, I just got a phone last week, Michelle. I haven't had one this whole time. But I think the context around it is, we should be questioning things, not to a point where it makes us unwell, not to a point where it's constantly dysregulating, not to a point where we're making decisions out of fear, but it's okay and awesome potentially to empower ourselves and to understand that if something is really dense in chemicals that are lab synthesized, it is possible that there's going to be a negative health impact. It's not necessarily that it's going to, but we have to assume that there's a higher probability. Is that how you kind of view things too?
It's weird, because the wellness industry is so torn. And I'll give a personal example that had just happened in real time. So like I go to a lot of events. So I usually don't like to always buy things fast fashion, but girl, in this economy, ain't nobody trying to buy $200-$300 dresses every single weekend. Like I have a wedding to go to this weekend. And so I did like a little Shein haul where I just bought a couple of dresses, and people are like, Shein's toxic. How dare you? I can't believe this. Like literally clutching their pearls over the fact that I ordered something off of Shein. And I can see where people are coming from, because people see headlines and they automatically go, that's the brand. That's the brand that's toxic, right? So, and I know this from experience, just because as somebody who looks at headlines all the time and I can read between the lines, when somebody's like, oh, Tampax is determined toxic, people just think that's Tampax. They don't think like, okay, well, what's in Tampax that can be found in other tampons that could be potentially be toxic? So, for example, when Shein was being, I think somebody did a study on Shein and said Shein has toxic PFAS in their clothing. I'm like, okay, cool. If you actually read the article, one, they tested their rain jackets, and that specific plastic.
It's plastic,
is
right?
high in PFAS. But that's not just Shein. That's every synthetic clothing company ever. So unless you're making your clothing from scratch and you know that you're getting 100% cotton, and even 100% cotton, because as we've seen with the tampons, 100% organic cotton is still contaminated with PFAS because it's coming from the soil and it's coming. So we're not free from chemicals. So for people to have their panties in a bunch just tells me the state of where people are at right now when it comes to seeing headlines. And then you have a bunch of influencers, right? And we're all to blame because we all try to make content about these things. And unfortunately, if you listen to one person, they're going to be like, it's completely fine. You listen to another person, they say it's completely toxic. For me, I wear athletic gear, which is always, almost all the time, synthetic. I know I'm probably getting PFAS in my system right now. Do I think if I die from this, please write it on my tombstone? But I highly doubt that all the foundational things I do in my life, PFAS will be my demise. You know what I'm saying? That's just not how I view my life. Where we don't go this up in arms for wellness influencers who drink every weekend or who do fill their face up with Botox. We don't do that, right? Because there hasn't been this hallmark title or article that's come out about how toxic it is, right?
But I think people would ignore it too because they want to
or that. But people see Shein and they think Shein is the only one, or they still remember when it happened with Lululemon, they think, oh, it's only Lululemon. No, if you look at what the products are, it'll happen across the board. So for me, I'm not going to start becoming a nudist because I can't trust any clothing. I mean, if people want that, I'll give the people what they want. But, it's just one of those things where you're like, guys, calm down. If I'm not worried about it as someone who does do this for a living, don't worry for me. I totally appreciate it. But yeah, people unfortunately will see a headline and then they just want the brand. They're like, what's the brand? Tell me the brand. It's no, you have to start looking, turning that label over and looking at what it is so we can look for this across the board. So yeah, it really comes down to where is PFAS, for example, I'm going to just use it as an example, on the hierarchy of your health, where is that? Because if it's in your foundation, that's where you're leading with fear. Foundation for me is making sure I'm getting sunlight, making sure I'm drinking enough water with minerals. For me, actually, having filtered water is way lower, on my foundational, things that I do every day than toxic, clothing, and that's just me. And I think everybody needs to start figuring out what their,
what your thing is, right?
It looks like.
Yeah. I love the health pyramid idea too. And I think also someone who is very chronically ill, as let's say someone who's working with, myself or my team, what their health pyramid's going to look like, it might be that if someone who has MCAS, for instance, goes into an airport and they have a week-long flare because of the smell of the chemicals there, chemical avoidance might be the top tier priority, right? If you're looking to get improvements in your skin, the skincare products that you use may be high on the list, but also hydrating, like you said, might be also really high on the list. So I think we have to, like you said, kind of figure out, where am I going with my health? A lot of times, again, there's this brand of, we call them the science-based crew, or, all of us science-based, but it's that you have to have one specific study that justifies one specific idea or mechanism. They'll say something like everything is a chemical, or they'll say it's okay for people to consume this. Here's the flaw in the study. And the question is not as if it's okay. Is it okay for that specific person? So I think that's the question we should all be asking ourselves. What's okay for me? For instance, if I don't have electrolytes, some minerals and chill, if I don't have some electrolytes on a daily basis because I have POTS, I'm going to really not feel well, right? So for me, it's an absolute non-negotiable. I have chronically low blood pressure. I have to do that. I have low blood volume. I absolutely have to do that, right? It's really important for me. But something like you said, where I have never had a skin problem. I hate saying it, but I have never had a skin problem, right? So though I've had weight stuff, like everyone has their own thing, right? So for me, I wear like toxic face makeup. Like it is definitely toxic. I'm sure it is. It has the ability to cause toxic issues down the line, but it's not like top of my list for me. And I can only do, like you said, I got to filter my water. I got to drink my mineral. I have 45 health tasks I have to do in the morning to be a person and combat the environment we live in. It's a little choose your battles situation. For me, the cat eye is very brand important for me. It's what I wear on my face every day. I need like a dirty Sephora eyeliner and it's got to go right into my eye, and that's just how it's going to go. I think we care about things when we have to, and we shouldn't care about them until we have to. Now, when it comes to the skin stuff, when it comes to these, are there literal like words you look for in the label, or do you just go with trusted brands? How would someone even start like knowing what products to use or not? I heard you say fragrances are something to avoid right off the bat, for sure. Tell me a little more about like how you would even go about that.
Yeah. So when it comes to toxic like skincare products, and like you said, it's one of those things where, you have to create your own hierarchy of like what things are. And I think the part that a lot of people miss is like trusting themselves and like being honest with themselves, because there's a lot of people who justify their like Diet Coke every single day. And you really have to sit down and ask yourself, like, is that really helping you on a day-to-day basis? If like you're like, every time you see a product for bloating, you're like, wait, I need that because I'm so bloated. Or like, like we have to start asking ourselves, like being a little honest with ourselves when it comes to like our habits and if they're actually serving us. Like I'm very open to like never ordering another toxic pair of, clothing. If like when I do my heavy metal mineral analysis once a year and I start seeing that my levels are high, I've never seen that yet. So that's why I think like my drainage pathways are good. Like all my foundational things are working so that, heavy metals in my, physical products aren't affecting me. Maybe they would someone who has poor drainage pathways. Like I'm very on top of my health. So like, and also like I have like I am in a like a touch and go relationship with a lot of in my life. Like I will give up anything if I think it's affecting my health. And I just don't think enough people are like willing to do that because they have such emotional relationships with things that they have, So for me, I'm like, okay, cool. If I have to find another product, I will. Like, it's no big deal. But like I said, I haven't seen any issues when I do my HTMAs every year. Like I do that. That's like a yearly like thing for me. And I've never seen my metals like really go up or like have any type of accumulation. And if I sensed it, I would stop it. And it's that simple for me,
That's really smart. Yeah. That's a really smart way of doing
it. Be honest with myself. Like I've seen other things come up for me and I'm like, okay, immediately that's why water and minerals has been so important because I lack those. So it's just like, I just do what I got to do.
I just have to double down on what you just said. And it's so important. I think monitoring your symptoms and your signs. So what's going on with your vital signs, what's going on with your lab tests, what's going on with the actual experiences you're having, and basing what you need to cut down on or focus on that is extremely intuitive. I think once people hear, oh, this period underwear, this tampon causes this issue, I think they then think this is related to me. And I think you need to everyone needs to focus on what is related to them and most helpful for them. Because I really do believe we have to make compromises, unfortunately, to exist in America. Yeah. If it is very hard for someone to exist in America chemically, which by the way, there's many of us, it's very hard to exist in. You might have to, again, like be that person who's wearing a face mask at the airport. You might have to be that person who's taking a crap ton of antihistamines before you go. Like, there are certain people whose bodies become incongruent with the environment, and that is real. But I think the goal should actually be to get away with as much as you can, if anything. I honestly think you should try to be able to get away with what you can until, like you said, Illy, it shows up in your labs. And then you're like, all right, I'm not getting away with Sheen anymore. Now I have to focus on this. A lot of my clients come to me and they're like, should I be cutting this out? Should I be taking this out? Should I be focusing on this? And I'm like, not until we have to. And then let's see, because I think that making our lives as limited as possible is also not really a robust solution for many people who do have to exist in society, because many people have to go to offices, right? They have to be around other perfumes and people and what they're doing. We don't have full control of our environment. So if we can control what we can control, like a water filter or something like that, like you're saying, and we take action where we can. But the goal is not to cut everything out to start with. That would not be my goal. And I don't think your goal for people either.
Yeah. And I also remind people all the time, like, I think worrying about heavy metals and lead and everything is like level like 87. Like, why are we starting a video game at level 87? Level 1 is making sure you're sleeping. You know, like if you're not sleeping well, we probably shouldn't be worrying about our Stanley Cups. You know, so it's just like, let's pick a struggle here because, and that's the issue that I have. People don't realize, like, if you follow me today, you don't realize I've been in a health journey for 5 years. If you guys followed me 5 years ago, you would see the crazy that I was still doing because I was on level 1. You know, level 1 was like making sure I'm just like exercising, you know, like getting in my steps. And then I was still consuming a lot of other toxic, and I was still using all different types of makeup brands. And I was doing like purple freaking eyeshadow up to my eyebrows like every single day because I worked as like a freaking hostess. Like, people forget the things that I was doing because I had to start at level 1, where now I'm like probably at like level, I don't know, 60 maybe. Like, I'm just making up numbers here. But like, that's what people forget. A level 100 is no cell phone, living in the woods somewhere in the Adirondack. That's level 100 for me. Like, that's where I see my scale where I'm like, I'm probably never going to reach that. Like, I don't see my little ass living in the freaking woods chopping wood. I just don't see it. I'm just not doing it. You know, those are the things. But everybody's at a different level. So for people to see a headline and then start panicking over like, oh my God, there's lead in everything. There's people that DM me. They're like, I just ordered a lead tester so I could test my house with lead. I'm like, what is that doing for you besides causing anxiety? Like, what is that doing for you? You know? So I do think social media tries to get you at that level quicker than you're ready for. And then that's what causes this fear mongering and that anxiety, because then I think the science-based people, and I understand where they're coming from, but truly, because they probably get these DMs of people frantic and then they have to try to put the fire out. But I don't think it's about putting the fire out completely. I think it's just being like, you need to figure out, is this fire in your yard or is it down the block? How much of a problem is this fire right now?
I think this also just brings me this bigger conversation that you are just blowing my mind with, which is, in general, every battle of the earth, we can't fight at once. Right? So there's going to be some people who are going to help us with the food system. There's going to be some people who are going to help us with the pharmaceutical system. We can't take on, if we were to really conceive of every environmental toxicant, every food toxicant, everything at once, we would be very scared to be inside of our homes and outside of our homes, right? There would be no safe place, especially in this country. There would be nowhere to go. You have to find the biggest fish to fry. You have to find it could really be something like mold, and that has to be your mission, and it has to be your thing where you're eradicating it because that's what's making you sick. But no matter what it is, you have to focus on the foundations first. And I love this idea of the levels, and that when you're looking at someone like a functional medicine doctor who's been in practice for 20 years, they're like, you have to focus on this chemical because this one thing. And by the way, I also think that's not really functional medicine anyway, but you know, that's a different conversation I've had in this podcast, where you are laser focused on only one thing for one population and not looking at the bigger picture of what's going on. But what people are seeing on social media is people who have been, like you said, at a level 70 for 10 years already. So they're not worried about those basics. And I think that's what gets lost in podcasting and online too. And why people aren't getting information from online, they're just getting fear, is because they're not seeing like, is this for me? Or do I need to do way more before I start caring about this? You almost have to do the basics before you can even care about that, because we don't have the space to care about it all at once. I just don't think we do.
Yeah. And I get it too. I know I'm on my own path. I don't fall into a lot of this stuff. But I do get very aggravated when people come on here and tell people that it's not an issue, because I view everything as a version of informed consent. Like, there's a lot of things that and like you said, like there's things that we all do that we know are toxic, but I'm informed about it and I'm not oblivious to it, but it is in the back of my mind. Like, okay, this is something I'm going to, if new symptoms arise, I'm going to obviously think about, like, I really have been wearing this a lot, blah, blah, blah. You know, like that's all it is. Like, it's a little nugget in the back of my mind of informed consent. And I feel like a lot of these very science like based accounts don't allow people to have that type of consent. They just go, everything is safe. Okay, like, what are you going to tell somebody who's been suffering for years and they have an inkling that it could be, I don't know, mold in their house. And they're like, there's no such thing. Mold's not a problem, and blah, blah, blah. Or like parasites aren't a problem, or like nothing's a problem. Everything's fine until it's not. And I try to get people so that they don't have to figure out that it's not that now it's a problem. You know, like we try to get people before that happens and heal people before they end up in the chronically ill community and then they can't get out, because now they just have to make sure their symptoms aren't horrible versus like we can try to reverse everything. But then there does come a point where it's almost a little bit too late. Like we have people who are already in their 30s getting diagnosed with colon cancer. Like, well, now what do? You know, people getting their gallbladder removed, their all these organs removed, and like now it's too late, you know? So I don't think it's bad for people to say, hey, this could be toxic. And unfortunately, the responsibility falls on us as creators versus people being able to just hold information without panicking. Yes. To be honest, I'm always like, that's a you problem. Like, I'm here to show information. If everyone you follow is causing you anxiety and you're panicking, that's something you need to assess.
You need to actually unfollow them. Realistically, yeah. I don't feel that information is usually usable at all unless it's applying to them and their level. The levels is a system that I'm using, by the way. I love theories like this. I love that everyone's at a different level of caring and priority for their health. I think that's really important. And I think the evidence-based bullies are people who are very likely to say, this study shows that this is very safe. And I think maybe their goal is to help people to not feel afraid of things. But at the same time, what I think is missed is that the reason people are looking for health information is because they are sick. So they don't really want to be coddled or say this one study says it's okay. They literally want help. I would say social media is not a place to get help, though. And it's very hard for me to say that because part of my business is facing on social media, but I don't post any specific studies. I never post specific things because I know how triggering it is. That's why every damn word I say in social media, I'm so careful about, because I don't know who I'm speaking to and who's picking that up and looking for help. So while it's nice that people are saying these things are safe because this one study says they're safe, people are asking smart questions about their health and they're wondering why the heck they're so sick and they want to find some answers. I think the accounts like yours are amazing. I think any account that focuses on the foundations first and will say to you, green powders can be awesome or they can be totally not awesome. And still you have to focus on nutrition first. That's the kind of account that I'm always looking to, connect with and always looking for my clients to look at, because that's really the most, again, human approach, the approach that's going to help people the most, whereby if you're saying everything's fine, or you're saying everything's not fine when it comes to chemicals or anything, I don't think it helps anyone. I think there has to be here's the way we look at it and here's how we frame it for you. We have to do one thing too, Illy. We have to define what we think toxic or a toxin is in the context we use it on social media versus how it's seen. So when people see the word toxin, the big fight is that a toxin has to cause immediate illness. That's how you know something is a toxin. When we say something can be toxic, it means it has the capacity or potential to cause harm. Huge difference between something that's a high dose toxin and something that has the potential to cause harm and maybe toxic. Is that how you view those words? I feel like contextually that's kind of how you use them versus how I see them online, which is like, PFAs are not toxic because they're not toxins. And it's like, well, you don't know the dose, you don't know the amount of time, and you don't know the vessel that those PFAs are going into. Do they have already disruption in their endocrine system? Tell us about how you feel about this toxic argument that we see.
Yeah. I mean, I always tell people I live a low-tox lifestyle. Like, there's no such thing as no tox, right? Because I can't control the air I breathe. I can't control how my house was built. Like, I can't control where they put freaking, Wi-Fi towers. Like, those shit I just can't control. So I like to live a low-tox life. Like, what I can control, I try. But I'm not like crazy about it. Obviously, just ordered Shein, like, relax. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, you have to figure out what is a toxin for you versus not. I do think that there are things that are inherently toxic. I like to be very clear with my words. Like when people are like, oh, you can't eat processed foods. I'm like, we're talking about ultra processed foods. Because processed foods are like a smoothie and ultra processed food is like a Twinkie. Those are two very different things, So I'm very clear with my words. So I always try to say like something is potentially a toxin or potentially toxic, right? Because that's just how I like to see things, because I don't think obviously one thing will kill you. Like if you use one perfume, is that going to kill you? No. The issue that I think a lot of these places talk about, or like these, evidence-based bullies talk about, is they say the dose makes the poison, right? Cool. Like meaning like if you drink bleach, you'll die, right? Maybe if you drink a drop of bleach every single day, you won't die, but maybe in 5 years you will. Like we don't know to the extent, right? And they try to relate the same very outdated ideology to our everyday products. The average woman puts on what? 7, 8, 9 products on their body in the morning, not counting makeup. There could be a safe dose in each of those products so they can pass FDA regulation and make it to store shelves. But never in the history of science has your specific skincare routine been tested as a conglomerate for you or for society. So we have no idea if we've exceeded that safe dose, because if there's one dose of this in one product and then one dose of that in one product, well, now we have 2 doses of that. Like this is just, of course, simple math. So how they don't see that and they go, aspartame isn't a problem because the dose makes the poison. You would have to consume a gallon of Pepsi Cola a day to reach this thing. Not realizing that aspartame, sucralose, acesulfame, and potassium are found in everything from yogurts to coffee creamer to like literally anything these days. So it's like we're slowly exceeding that safe dose on a day-to-day basis. And that's the part that I think they miss. So I think the word toxin and toxic are very blurred lines right now with current food science and just overall toxicology in general. I think those lines have been completely blurred because we have no idea how much we're actually putting on our skin at all or in our bodies.
And also the question comes to in my head is not, is this safe for me from a product standpoint? Is this product going to kill me? The question is this product going to slowly sicken me? Or is this product something that is making me sick without me realizing? Again, I'm not looking for trouble or asking my clients to look for trouble and say, this is making me sick. This is making me sick. But if you are sick and you are looking for answers, it's okay to take inventory of the different things that we're intaking and seeing where does this lie on my priority list. But it's always, no, this is not going to kill you. I don't care if it's going to kill me. I care if someone's wearing perfume next to me and my client has such a bad immune response to that perfume that they're sick for 3 weeks. That's what I care about. I don't think they're going to die from the perfume. That's not my consideration. My consideration is, are they going to be so sick?
Like, why is death?
Death is the parameter. It's like, no, you're not going to be projectile vomiting from this level of drinking bleach, but it's like, but is it kind of killing my organs from the inside in the long term? Like that's what I'm interested in. Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, with the science-based community is, for example, I'll be like, if you're looking for a ready-made protein shake, that you just get at the store and it says carrageenan on it. And carrageenan, we know, has been a potential carcinogen. It can really affect the gut lining. And you have another person saying, there's no science to support that carrageenan is a potential toxin, blah, blah, blah. It is safe, blah, blah, blah. If someone, now I'll have a client or someone come to you or myself and they go, I've really been having gut problems. I don't know what it could be. I've been told, like I had someone, a dietitian assess my diet and they said, all the products I use are good. I'm eating things in moderation. I don't really have this shake all the time, but I have it moderately. Like I like it as a pick-me-up. You and I, since we know what to look out for, we can be like, let me see what's in that shake because let's just try avoiding the shake for 3 weeks. Let's just try it because that is like you mentioned, nothing bad's going to happen. If
it's low risk, you're not taking out, even if you take out something like gluten, you can replace gluten in ways of carbs in your diet. We can find other carbs. There's no nutrients in gluten-rich foods that you're missing out on besides literally carbs. Yeah. I love that when people post like whole wheat bread with the enriched and fortified vitamins in it. It's like, we can find those in other foods. We don't need to eat bread in order to survive. We can totally find an almond milk without carrageenan and totally play. It's very, very low risk, very low cost alternatives.
Low risk, like swap for people. And that's like literally what I try to give people as an option. I'm like, I know you love that cupcake, but you have that cupcake every night for dinner, like for dessert, and you're always complaining that you're chronically bloated and you have blood sugar problems and all these things. So how about maybe we find a cupcake that doesn't have all those ingredients so you can still enjoy your cupcake? And it's like trade for a trade. Like, this is an even exchange we're trying to have here. And that's what I don't understand about those people is like, what are people losing from just swapping it out? What are people losing?
The people posting it are losing their egos if they don't get to post about it. That's all they're losing. That's all they're losing.
Yeah, that's the only thing. And for me, I don't give a shit if you lose your freaking ego. Like, I'm here to help people, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think, mine and your personality is very interesting because we have many similarities. And I think because you're very tough in a good way, Eastern European tough, as I've told you, and I love that. I think that people can mistake information based on how it's presented. And I think people see a study on the back of a screen and a personality that's like, I'm a PhD dietitian. And I think people lose the message within it. And what I always have loved about you is that I always know that you're trying to help people. And yeah, you curse, and yeah, you're tough. And I love that about you. And I think that it's really understanding that, again, even if, and this is something that has always pissed me off with, about you, and not about you, about what happens to you, is that people take shots at you all the time and repost your stuff. And I just want to say, like, someone's personality also doesn't indicate whether they're middle ground, whether they're compassionate, whether they're anything. You are really damn as close to the middle as any person can get. And I think that it's just, there's something about social media too, where the certain personality types, like if people are talking in a more monotone way, it's really interesting. And I get more upset when people stitch your videos and attack you than you do, because you're like tough as nails. But I always message you and I'm like, I hate this so much. And you're like, I'm fine.
Actually, I don't know. Like, I think it's because I don't give it, that I don't have a degree. Like, I genuinely just don't give it. Like, I have the money to get back to college. And really, if I want to be indoctrinated, you think I want to pay thousands of dollars to be indoctrinated and like have to unlearn everything again? Like, no, I don't feel like doing that, to be quite honest. Like, I'd rather be a CEO. So what am I going to try to prove to you anything? Like, I don't care. I've known you for 3 seconds through a screen and I've hated all 3 seconds. So like, for me, I don't give a crap. So I think that's what people like don't like about me, maybe, is because they try to discredit me and I don't care. Like, try harder. Like, if you want to try to discredit me, try something new. Like, I'm getting a little bored of the same, like, well, you're not a doctor. Like, thank you. I'm also a brunette. Like, anything else. And I think that's what they get so flustered about, is because I genuinely don't care. Like, I'm here for the people. I'm a girl's girl. Like, I want all my wellness girlies to feel hot, healthy, thriving. Like, that's all I want. If that means I have to review Cheerios, I'll review the Cheerios, like, I don't care. So I think that's really why people get upset. And so they try to take me down. And I'm like, girl, we're going to have to get creative if you really want to do all that.
I also have to tell you, as a total HSP person living in an HSP, one of my biggest flaws in life is that I am very people pleaser. And it's something where like I get tortured when I'm posting something online, because I'm like, what if it hurts this person? What if it's this? Yeah. And sometimes like it's just healthier to be in the mindset you're in. And I think that's something that people can learn from you too. I have to be honest.
What would Illy do? Like, what would Illy say? What would Illy do?
Exactly. Yes. I'm like, it's not shop Illy, it's think Illy. I really do like that about you. And I admire it because it's something that I always am working on in myself. And I always want my clients to work on, is like, my concern is not what people think about me. It's what I'm saying, how it can affect someone in a negative way. That's always my fear in life. It's like what makes me sleepless in life. Like,
that means you care. So that's like a good thing, for sure.
But I really admire this about you, because the information has to be out there. And I'd much rather someone see something middle ground and be bold enough to post it, and for you to just let things bounce off of you. It's just healthier for your whole HPA axis to let things bounce off of you, and to just be like, you know what? I feel strong in what I'm saying, and I know I'm doing it for the right reasons. And I believe that about you so much. And I've always believed that about you. So I appreciate that so much. All right, Illy, we have to give them. All right, give me chemicals. Give me chemicals. So
give the people what they want. So
skin products, food products. What are I'm on level 1, Illy. Think skin wise, because Michelle Shapiro is on level 1 skin wise. What do I care about skin wise? And then we'll talk about the other categories. But what are you looking at? You're like, do not use this in your products, even level 1.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we have to avoid the synthetic fragrance, like we can't keep buying candles from Target. We just can't keep doing it. So that's like a big thing. Fragrance can be found in everything. I've seen fragrance in freaking like blushes and bronzers and in lipsticks, and you're like ingesting it. Like it's like how many times are we ingesting fragrance? Probably never. But if you use a lipstick, like I've seen lipsticks and lip glosses have fragrance. So I really am like so big on the fragrance because we don't know what it is.
Oh, I'm using just aloe on my lips now. I'm so glad. That's awesome. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like that's a big one because it can contain a lot of endocrine disruptors. And that's the biggest thing when it comes to skincare and the products that we use in our home is the endocrine disruptors. I know so many women that struggle with hormone problems and the migraines, and that's the issue. It really messes with those hormonal receptors and it can really fuck with them. So I really try to avoid fragrance. I avoid BHT, PEGs, parabens. Like those will be very clear because BHT will just say BHT.
It'll literally say BHT. It'll say parabens. Okay.
Yeah. So those will be in everything. Even like, so powdered products. I don't know many that use, makeup, we usually use talc, but you try not to use talc because it's been linked to, breast cancer. So these are all the things that are in facial products and products that we use in our bodies. Yeah, those are the ones that are messing with our hormones. So those are the big ones.
Hair products, parabens, phthalates. That's what you're looking at too?
Like SLS. Yeah. SLS is a foaming agent. It's also been an endocrine disruptor. So that's usually in like toothpaste, like we're ingesting it. Okay. Anything that foams. So I get a lot of like, in the beginning, when we first started Live Healthfully, a lot of people that would order like body wash. It's like, this doesn't foam. I'm like, because it doesn't have toxic foaming agents. That's a soap, like doesn't, like it'll fluff up a bit, but it won't foam the way that those bubbly ones do. So if something's bubbling a lot, like flip it over and see if there's like SLS in it, and it'll just say that. You have to be very careful about stuff like that. But and then your candles, the same thing. Candles can contain fragrance, and the wick can be paraffin, which is synthetic, and you're just burning synthetic into your air and you're inhaling it, and it's just disgusting. So those are things I like to avoid in like my topical products or like things that I'm putting on my body. And then when it comes to like things that I'm ingesting, I'm definitely on the stricter side, I think, than many people in the space. But I definitely avoid, obviously, like all the artificial sweeteners. Like I don't have aspartame. I don't have acesulfame potassium, which is the cousin of aspartame. I don't do the sucralose. I don't do any of that. I try to stay away from inflammatory oils like the canola and the rapeseed. Sunflower oil, if it's like a high oleic organic sunflower oil, I don't think that's terrible, but it's not something I have every day. Like I'm very hierarchy needs with stuff like that because sometimes it's just like unavoidable. I like to avoid a lot of gums. Like I don't think all gums are bad. They definitely have a time and a place. And if they're high quality, they're not bad. Like xanthan gum can be bad, but if it's like a non-GMO xanthan gum, then we're like kind of in the clear. But the thing is people are consuming a lot of them in a lot of their products, and they're causing, like you have to think of what a gum does. So gums are very sticky. They make things stick together. They can emulsify. So they make things now sticky and thicker. So imagine what that's doing in your gut. So I don't think if like the only gum you have is like in your coffee creamer, that's going to be a problem. But I think it's in the coffee creamer, it's in the yogurts, it's in the protein bars, it's in your protein shakes, it's in mac and cheese. Like it's in all these things that are supposed to be like sticky and thick. And that's where the problems start to arise. So that's like an informed consent kind of ingredient where I'm like, just be aware of how many you're consuming, especially if you have gut problems. So that's one of those products. And then of course I don't do the artificial or like the natural flavor.
Flavor. Yeah, that's a controversial one. I'm at pretty much level 65 or whatever we want to call it with you. But now it's interesting. Like my whole world is reframed since histamine issues, because I used to feel great drinking citric acid and I used to feel great with natural flavors. But I actually notice a difference now, because I will say that mast cell activation syndrome will make you highly attuned to things like that. So you will actually notice things before your labs even show it. You'll notice something. So people might have to be more strict otherwise. But it's interesting. It's just this whole level theory is so fascinating and I love it. I'm calling it level theory, and it's Illy's level theory, because I really realize even myself over time, I'm like, you know what? You're talking about the hair stuff. All right. Yeah. I use Shea Moisture shampoo. I use like natural soaps. It does not foam. There's no fun in the soap at all. But I
Yeah, no
realized
fun.
that over time, I started to care about different things, and you kind of slowly integrate those things and slowly care. But it's not like if I go out to eat, I'm really concerned about the ingredients. It is what it is. Like I'm just going to always choose the same foods because that's just what I eat now. But it really has to be, again, where are you at? And essentially, how do you take yourself like 2% further if you want to, and in what direction? Until my skin starts bothering me or I notice changes in my hormones or my hair mineral test, I'm probably going to use the toxic eyeliner. But when my hair wasn't feeling normal and I felt like the texture of my hair was off, I was like, I'm switching right. We care when we care. And I always give this really funny story. My little cousin, she's like a supermodel, gorgeous angel. She's a perfect person, obviously. Love her. She has lupus. And she basically just wasn't doing much for her lupus. I forced her to start taking action for it because she was very symptomatic. She had one hair fall out. I'm not even kidding. Like her hair started falling out at a higher rate than it normally did. And she was like, and I'm doing something about the lupus now. Like we only care when we care. For her, the aesthetic piece of it was more important than the fact that she was having debilitating spinal excruciating pain. She was like, I literally don't care until it affects me aesthetically, which is like, we're all, whatever we care about, we care about. Some people, the pain is really the more important thing, which it just depends on us. So you really have to think not only where am I at health-wise, where am I going and what are my priorities? And then you can start to play with what's important to you and move yourself like that 2%, basically. And Illy, like you're saying, the problem is when people are looking at your content, they're like, oh God, now I can never have seed oil again. Illy's not doing seed oils. I'm not doing seed oils. It's like, if that is the most important thing in your world, it might be, honestly, and that's okay if any of these things are the most important thing, but you got to find your thing and then push it. Like, again, I got a water filter I got a water filter like 4 years ago. I probably got that after a lot of functional dietitians got it. Like we have to move at our own pace. And instead of the thinking being, how do I start by cutting out everything in my life? Start the other direction. Where am I at right now? And how am I moving the needle of my life and my health when it comes to toxicity?
And like level 60 for you can be completely different for me too. Like there's people I know, like I am not the girl to go to my husband's going to take me to a restaurant and I'm going to be like, do you cook with seed oil? Like that's just not me. That'll never be me because I'm like, I don't live my life like that. And I feel like I do enough foundational things to mitigate the 1% of the year that I have seed oils, like whatever, it's not a big deal. But then those same people will like drink. So it's like, for me, I'll never touch a drink. I've been sober for 3 years now. So I'm like, I'll never touch a drink. But then there's people who are like babysitting a cocktail and then they're like, but is there seed oils in this? So it's like, everybody has their thing. Like for me, I ordered 3 dresses on Shein and I'm getting crucified. But I'm like, I won't touch seed oils and I don't drink and like, I don't do the Botox and I don't do the thing. So it's like, people have their own levels and then they project where they're at and they think that you should be where they're at and vice versa. So like sometimes people see you and I and they're like, oh, well, she does this and that. Like people are like, I looked up to you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like what the hell?
So funny. People don't say stuff like that to me. I don't know. You're scarier than me, but for some reason, people are too afraid to say weird stuff like that to me. And I'm going to ask people to continue to not say weird stuff like that to me. This happens, level theory, Illy, as it's now called. Level theory happens on a moral basis too, right? Like there's moral relativity, right? Like something that I would think is totally uncool, someone else would be like, that's fine to do that. And I'm like, that's totally uncool. It's the same thing with Shein, whatever, from a moral standpoint or from a clothing standpoint, people are just basically saying to you, oh, Illy, I thought you were on the same level of this thing as me. And you're like, why would you think that? I never said I was level 85 in sustainability. I'm level 1 in sustainability. It's really interesting. And this is something like you need to find the people who are at your level or speaking to your level of whatever your thing is. So like if someone was a political activist, right? They would not be on like a page like ours that's talking about health because that's not where they're going to be like, the only thing that is so important, or a social activist is something like, food inequality or food insecurity. And that's the most important thing. And like, thank God that people like that exist. Like that, thank God that there's people who are so high in their levels of their thing, but we have to go to people who are at our level or a level we want to be at that's reasonable for us, I think.
Yeah. And I think people also, they see you as somebody, right? And then they want you to master everything. Like I'm the avatar. Like I'm not, like I'm not going to master all the elements of health. Like it's just not going to be my thing. Like there's definitely things I slack on. And definitely sustainability is not my forte. Will I like only buy like the beeswax covers for my food? Yeah, of course. Like that's, and will I only buy the ceramic and glass containers? Like, yeah, of course. Like I have those things, but like I'm just not at the realm of like that. Like that's just not my thing. And, like people always be in my DMs telling me to speak on things. And I'm like, that's just not what I created my page for, like, do you walk into a library and ask them why they don't sell clothes? Like, no, you don't. So it's like, why do people come onto others' pages? Like, I'm clearly I'm a whole food first, holistic girly in my own way. Like, I'm just learning as much as anybody else is learning. Like, when articles come out, I'm like, oh, that's crazy. Like, I find out in real time on a lot of stuff. So it's like, for people to want you to be where they're at is like crazy. And then I follow people who are like next level. Like they live in Costa Rica and they walk around barefoot and they're like grabbing,
one person in particular, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Like a bunch. And I'm just like, that's, not that I like think that's bad or anything. I'm like, that's next level, like God, that's what that's level 100 to me,
This is so fun. Well, there's also, if we wanted to be granular about this hilarious theory, we're New Yorkers. So we are native borough girls, Bronx and Queens up in here. Okay. We are like real borough girls. The level of toxicity from a trauma and physical standpoint is going to be high. So it's just going to be high to start with. So, which also means that I said to Jeremy my husband the other day, I was like, by the way, shout out to the entire Illy family crew, husband and brother. You guys are the best, who help her with her company. You guys are amazing and run this whole company together. And they're the coolest people ever. But I was like, the water in New Jersey is like some of the worst water in the entire country, by the way. It's like a huge problem. So I'm like, we just have to get a water filter because that's the compromise we make in living here. I have a client who's amazing, Alana, and she'll listen to this. She's like a huge podcast listener. She's awesome and brilliant, and also like just an amazing person. She like rides horses all the time. She like swims. She's in like the Cape Cod area. She'll like swim in the river, and I'm like, I don't know what you're doing. I dream that I could ever do what you're doing. I'm never getting to that level, and that's okay. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could be as cool as her. But it's also just like you said, like my dream isn't to be living in Costa Rica. My dream is to be alive in New York, like just alive and in New York. That's all I'm trying to do here. And that's not that easy.
My bar is at.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just not that easy. I'm not trying to be the healthiest person in the world. I'm trying to like feel okay. And I'm trying to get my clients to feel okay too. And because of, so I think that's really the consideration is, where are you going with it? I think that's brilliant, by the way, that everyone's at a different level and you need to know where you're going with your levels. And if you want to be alive and like in New York or major cities like us, that's where we're going. We're going to be the best level of being alive in New York.
Yeah. Like I'm ranking like top 5 in my little city in Florida. Like that's where, like I'm not trying to be the best in the world, like I'm I'm small town vibes,
Southern Florida level 100.
Yeah.
Costa Rica's level 1. That's the difference.
I'm probably in Miami. I'm like level like 3 because they're like biohacking every weekend, like I'm just like people are probably shocked. I don't even cold plunge. I've never been in a cold plunge. They're like,
wow.
But yeah, isn't that so?
You've never plunged? You've never plunged?
Healthfully, next article. Healthfully's never plunged.
Never plunged. She thinks she can talk about skincare products. She's never plunged. How could you? That's because you're not on the plunging level, Illy. You're not on the plunging level.
That's not at that level. Yeah. I don't like plunging. And also it's terrible for my nervous system. I hate being cold. It actually is terrible. Like I'd rather be in a sauna than coldness. That's another thing.
When I do any cryo or plunging, my blood sugar goes up to like 400 immediately because of how high stress and high cortisol it is for me. I'm like, we're like lizards. I need to like be in the sun. It's even though
I live in Florida. You want me to cold plunge? Get the hell get out of my life.
But you're like, I moved from the Northeast to be warm. Okay. I'm not cold plunging.
Now like everyone's like, let's cold plunge. I'm like, no, like that's so crazy. Yeah, like there's a lot of I haven't even entered the biohacking world. Like, let's be so for real. Like
I've been in it a long time. I'm gonna sell it to you straight. I was a speaker on a series and helped promote and produce this series called Biohack the World. And it was like 7 years ago. Yeah, no, I've been in this game. It's a New York thing though. Like majors, like I feel like not Bronx, New York, but Manhattan, when I'm like,
definitely not in the Bronx. They're like not doing that.
Exactly. And good for them, by the way. I'm not saying it's good that I did that, but that was level. But you know what, Illy, and this is the absolute truth. When I was doing all the biohacking stuff, and it's so funny because this group chat, whoever of the podcast, some of them listen to the podcast, they know all of us were also like level 100. And now we're like, let's drop down to 65 together. You know what I mean? New York 65. Let's drop down to it.
Yeah.
You also can get way, again, excited about these things. And then you have to find and kind of make things real for your life. So that is this theory I didn't know was coming up today. I'm beyond obsessed and going to use it in other episodes. Illy, it was like the joy of my day to talk with you. Can you tell people how to find you? Of course, I'm going to put the links down below. Just give me the whole Illy landscape here. Talk to us.
Yeah, Healthfully on all platforms. TikTok is a show, so don't find me on there. Find me on Instagram is where you want me, is at Healthfully. And then of course my website, Live Healthfully, where you can shop all things low-tox and amazing, like just such amazing small businesses that we work with. We have over 50, 60 small businesses and over 500 products. So there's something for everybody. And it's my pride and joy and my firstborn child. And I'm just like obsessed. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
And also, you can come on to Shop Healthfully at any level, Live Healthfully at any level. If you're at level 1 of I'm full tox and all levels of any morality, any health status, you're welcome there. And really, that is the truth.
Yeah, you could be a Delray 5 or a Miami 10, and you can shop at Live Healthfully.
To say I'm not a Miami 10 with how attractive people are, by the way. I've never been less than anything than I am attractiveness wise in Miami. It's a completely out of control situation in Miami.
No, it's actually
you're a welcome addition. Yeah, exactly. Thank you. You are the freaking best. Thank you so much.